Hi friends, welcome to Sri Sai online training. So in this video of Angular, we are going to discuss the following topics. So in this video of Angular, we are going to start with Angular Web Framework. So in this Angular Web Framework, we are going to discuss introduction to Angular, history of Angular, features of Angular. So what are the different new versions and different features which are added in this new versions we are going to discuss one by one. So introduction, history and features of Angular web framework for developing dynamic web applications. Right, so let us start with introduction to Angular. So what is Angular? So the simple definition of Angular goes like this. So Angular is a TypeScript web framework for developing dynamic web applications. So Angular is a TypeScript web framework for developing dynamic web applications. So what do you mean by web applications? So web applications means websites. Example, www.facebook.com, www.yahoo.com, www.gmail.com, etc. Right, and what do you mean by dynamic here? So dynamic here means data or information in website changes with respect to three things. First one, time to time. Example, news updates. Google News will be changing from time to time. Next, location to location. Example, weather report. So Google weather report, Yahoo weather report. This keeps on changing from one location to another location. And finally, user to user. So user to user will have separate login ID and password like emails, social networking websites, Gmail, Facebook. So information or data changes in a website with respect to three things. One, time to time. Two, location to location. Three, user to user. So this is what is we call it as dynamic websites. Okay, so right here, these are called as dynamic websites, or technically we call them as web application. Right, so if you want to develop any dynamic web application, okay, so we can use Angular, which is TypeScript web framework. Right, now web means internet. Now we'll try to understand. So to develop any dynamic web application, so to develop any dynamic web application in Angular, so we require TypeScript. Okay, so TypeScript means it is scripting or programming in HTML web pages. For example, so to develop any web page, we require three things. First, HTML. So HTML is used to display data in the form of using tags, bold, italic, headings, etc. Next, CSS. It makes our HTML data more stylish, like more colors, more styles, and more attractive. Next, JavaScript or TypeScript is used as a programming in web page. So programming means variables, data types, operators, functions, arrays, objects, etc. So all these programming can be used in a HTML web page using JavaScript or TypeScript. And what does it mean by framework? So this is important for us. So framework means Angular is going to provide us with library. runtime library plus runtime environment. So library means we are going to have modules. So modules are nothing but namespaces in TypeScript. Okay. And then runtime environment means, okay, environment means place for execution. So environment means place for execution. So Angular will provide runtime library plus place for execution when we develop dynamic web applications on the server, right? So it uses, Angular uses, okay, so this is a small note point. Angular uses HTML, CSS, JavaScript as well as with TypeScript. And Angular is completely rewritten in TypeScript. Okay, so Angular is completely rewritten in TypeScript. Means Angular application development has to be done in TypeScript. So we can also use other scripting languages, but TypeScript is highly preferable. So what TypeScript will do? So TypeScript compiles to JavaScript. So in every Angular application what we develop, before that Angular application is executed in the browser of the client system, that TypeScript is compiled into JavaScript on the server and displays dynamic information or data in the browser. So this is what is runtime environment, which is provided by Angular web framework, which is developed for dynamic web application development on any server. So these are the three things which we have to understand in the introduction of Angular. So Angular uses HTML, CSS, JavaScript and TypeScript, and it is completely rewritten in TypeScript. And every Angular application, before it is sent as a response back to the client in the browser for displaying the web page, it will convert TypeScript to JavaScript on the server itself, and then we'll be getting that JavaScript code along with HTML and CSS. Right. Next, coming to what are the notable features in Angular. So we have HTTP service. So using HTTP service, we can communicate with the database like Oracle. Okay, we can communicate with the servers like Java server, Tomcat server, Glassfish server, .NET server, Internet Information server, PHP server, XAMPP server, okay, Python web server, etc. And these servers will communicate with databases. So we can perform animations, material designs, autocomplete feature, navigations, toolbars, menus, routing for single page application development, components. And these components are developed using TypeScript classes and services. So services are reusable components. Write once, use anywhere in any component. And what are the prerequisites to learn Angular web application development? So the first prerequisite is you should know what is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and of course TypeScript with DOM. So as we have already discussed free TypeScript, HTML, CSS and DOM with JavaScript will be taught to you in different programs and different topics when we develop Angular applications in our system. So these are some prerequisites for Angular web application development. Right. So now we'll try to understand what is the history of Angular. So coming to the history of Angular, so initially we got AngularJS. So AngularJS was known as Angular 1. So it is known as Angular 1. And this AngularJS is written in JavaScript. It was developed in the year 2009. It was developed in the year 2009. And next, AngularJS was overtaken by Google in 2012. Okay, so in 2012, AngularJS was taken by Google company or Google corporation, Google company. Okay, and AngularJS is a JavaScript framework. So AngularJS, the name JS states that it is a JavaScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. Dynamic web applications. So let us try to understand what is the difference between AngularJS and Angular. Okay, so we'll take a small example, AngularJS versus Angular. So Angular, for our understanding, I'll write it as TS, TypeScript. Okay, but the name is Angular only. It is not Angular TS. For our understanding, I'm taking it as TS. Now let us take an example of Java.NET. So in Java and .NET, both of them has OOPS, object oriented programming. So in object oriented programming, we'll have classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, etc. Then what is the difference? The difference is programming syntaxes. So Java has its own syntaxes of writing a class, object, inheritance, polymorphism. So similarly, .NET will have its own syntax of working with classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism. So same thing in AngularJS, we can develop dynamic web applications. In Angular framework, using TypeScript also, we can develop the main dynamic web applications. Okay, so one important point here. So AngularJS is purely based on JavaScript. Okay, so in JavaScript we mainly have functions. Everything has functions. Okay, and we can also write some classes and objects. Okay, right, now coming to Angular. So Angular, which is based on TypeScript, TS, is purely based on TypeScript, and mainly we have classes. Everything we have classes, and these classes are technically known as components. They are technically known as components. Okay, right, now coming to history of Angular. So these are some different versions of Angular. Okay, so it goes like this: versions of Angular. Right, so we got the first version of Angular from Google Corporation as Angular 2. Okay, so Angular 2 is completely rewritten in TypeScript, and this was released in September 2016. So they have called AngularJS as the first version and Angular as second version. But technically it is not the concern of version 1 or version 2. AngularJS is JavaScript, Angular is TypeScript. But the versioning is done as first phase and second phase. Okay, right. So Angular 3 was skipped due to routing modules misplacements, and Angular 4 March 2017, and Angular 5 November 2017, Angular 6 May 2018, Angular 7 October 2018, Angular 8 May 2019, Angular 9 February 2020. Okay, so finally Angular. is a product from Google itself, and it is completely rewritten in TypeScript. Okay, it is rewritten in TypeScript. It is completely rewritten in TypeScript, whereas AngularJS is written in JavaScript, and Angular is written in TypeScript. So both are used for web application development. So it is a product from Google itself and some individuals and communities contributing for different libraries of Angular. So Angular is going to stay here for a long period of time, and it is going to rule the market for dynamic web application development. So this is what is small history to the Angular from Google product. Right. One small important note point, all the versions of Angular are backward compatible, and Google is also promising to provide every 6 months one version of Angular. So in the new versions, okay, some old features would be deprecated, and also deprecated means outdated, and also they are going to add new library and updated library. Okay, and finally Angular TypeScript is completely based on components and services, whereas AngularJS is based on MVC architecture. Okay, so MVC means model view controller, whereas Angular TypeScript is completely based on components and services architecture, means classes, objects, object oriented programming. Right. So next, coming to what are the different enhancements, what are the different features, new features which were added from Angular 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. We'll try to understand. Okay, so first one, if support means if condition is supported in Angular 2, whereas in Angular 4 we got if else condition also. Next, in Angular 4 we got as keyword in for loop which is used for looping control structure. So we got animation package in 4. Next we got condition based animation disable feature. So based on a condition we can enable or disable a animation. Next we got ng template instead of templates, because template is already used in HTML, and using this ng template we can make a view in our Angular application. View means what user will see in a web page of a browser. Next, from Angular 4 we got support for TypeScript 2.2, and next we also got pipe, title case pipe. Okay, so title case pipe means it is used for filters. Okay, and next we got HTTP GET API simplified in Angular 4 with HTTP client. Now using this HTTP client we can communicate with server-side technologies like Java servlets and Java JSPs, and something like .NET ASPs and web services, Java web services, Python web services, etc. And from Angular 4 the applications started developing small size and fast applications. Right. So next, coming to from Angular 5 we got progressive web applications, and then we got material design from Angular 5. So this material design is like when you are running your Angular application in mobile, especially Android mobile. Okay, so in Android we have the concept of material design, so that enhancement is also given in Angular 5 web application development. Next we got ng update, ng add, RxJS React extension for JavaScript from Angular 6. So in Angular 7, we had application performances, fast execution of web application, virtual scrolling also. Next, TypeScript 3.1 support, RxJS 6.3 support, Node 10 support. Node.js 10 support was given from Angular 7. Next, coming to Angular 8. In Angular 8, we had fast rebuilding time. So if you do any changes to your application, they will be rebuilt very quick and very fast. And next, we also had template type checking. So type checking means this is related to data types. And we also had backward compatibility of our application. Means all the features of 4, 5, 6, 7 can be used in Angular 8. And next, coming to Angular 9. In Angular 9, we had smaller build sizes, bundle sizes. Means our total application will be very small in size once it is compiled on the server. And we can do faster testing. We can do best debugging. If you have any errors, so application debugging can be done very quick and fast. Next, we also got improved support for CSS classes and style bindings. CSS classes and styles. And we got improved type checking. So as we already know that TypeScript is a strictly typed language, so that improvisation is also done in Angular 9. And then we got improved build errors. So build errors means whenever you are building your application, and if you have any errors, so those errors are easy to read, easy to understand, and easy to modify in your code. And finally, we got improved build times also. So build time means it will take less time for building our application. So these are some enhancements which are available from Angular 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so on. So this is what is all about introduction to Angular, history of Angular, features of Angular in different versions of Angular. Right, so that's all. What about this session, guys? Angular Web Framework, which is used for developing dynamic web applications, and it is a product from Google, and it is completely rewritten in TypeScript. Right, so thank you for listening to this session. Have a nice day.